Okay, so we're going to talk about MD Geist. An OVA, was it? Right?
It
Which,
was one OVA that was released in the 80s, and then for rather surprising reasons, a Western company decided to sponsor a second OVA.
and the surprising reason I think was that the owner of that Western company, who was, I think, basically just a distributor for anime in America, really liked MD Geist.
Yes, good old US Manga Corps. Like, you have to understand, US Manga Corps put out, like, some other things back in the day. Like, their symbol was the MD Geist guy, Mr. Geist. They, like, put out this DVD with, like, all these special features all about this show. It was really surprising, especially because this show almost immediately got a reputation for being schlocky trash, for being like pure nihilistic Mad Max style anime, which is basically what it is. But at the same time, I'd hardly say that it's total trash or anything like that.
I see. Yeah. I mean, going into it, I expected it to be much worse than it actually was, and I guess from what I understand, basically, people hated it because they felt like it was forced down their throat by those American distributors that you mentioned. But
I
so,
don't know about that, but people certainly found it a little funny that there was so much dedicated to this.
I mean, so much, I guess. So after the original MD Guys was released, I think that that American company um, funded a director's cut or whatever, which did some corrections to the first part of MD Guys, and they also then funded a sequel as well. Which yeah, we're going to talk about both of them. But I also heard that there were two different manga, quote unquote manga series, which were done by I think the artwork was by some Japanese guy, but I think in the wiki it's described as an original English manga or something. So
Yeah,
basically a
MD
comic.
Geist Ground Zero. Let's see.
I think that's the prequel.
My Comic Shop, 1996.
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah. Oh, yeah. US Manga Corps. Looks like there were 3 issues. All new original prequel to the animated film. Very 90s style comic.
yeah. I looked. Yeah,
1996.
yeah. I looked online to see if I could find it anywhere, but unfortunately, I couldn't find it. Um, because apparently,
Yeah,
yeah,
I just see some out of date auction for it.
yeah.
Uh,
So there were two manga actually. There's that one which you were just talked about, and there's another one which basically goes through the events of the second OVA and tries to fill in some blanks or something. Yeah, but unfortunately, they're both unavailable online anyway. And if they're not available online, well, they're not available anywhere either. So I guess I apparently they also released a version like a DVD which had like an extra DVD with just commentary and extra stuff. And I did try to see if I could find the commentary track anywhere, but I couldn't find it. But one of the things which the creator of the director of MD Geist said, who apparently is also the director of Blue Gender, from what I've heard, he said that he made this because like he thought that there were too many heroes in in Japanese manga and anime at the time.
Yeah, the impression I got is he wanted to go against the grain. Now, this guy, Koichi Ohara, this was apparently his big first debut in terms of making something on his own. He was directing a anime, etc. He'd done the mechanical designs for Gunbuster at this point. Would go on to direct Genocyber, which was another like uber violent, sort of mecha themed 90s OVA. Yeah, and then would go on to direct Blue Gender, some other things. I saw him listed as being a part of like the script and other things productions for Rising the Shield Hero. So he's still around. He's still helping out here and there.
I see. From what I've heard, he's mostly known for his mech designs rather than as a director. I guess.
Hmm.
So, I mean, I guess it is fair to say about that at this point he didn't really have that much experience. So, yeah, I don't know. I kind of felt like it was just average or too below average, really. I mean,
Well,
yeah.
the show itself, it opens with a whole bunch of skulls, and this is me going off of the director's cut. It opens with some monologue about the planet Jera, and really it goes on a little too long, and all it's telling you is that it's Mad Max. Two armies have been fighting, the Nextrum and the regular forces, and they've blown up the planet. Everything's terrible. And somehow one of these guys, it's not clear how, awakens this guy named Geist. He is an MDS, the most dangerous soldier. You gotta love the 90s.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Uh,
so, go on.
and so he walks out of like this burning building or whatever. There's a bullet hole in his head, and he literally just wipes the blood away.
Do we know who it is that he kills at the start, by the way?
No, I don't think we do. There's some forces of Nexum or the Fetties. I don't think it matters.
Because, I don't know, I guess one of the weird things is so basically he Geist, that's his name, and
Hmm.
I think Geist means what does it mean, ghost or something? Um,
Roughly speaking, sort of spirit in German. I don't think I view that as being too important here. I think they.
it just sounds cool. So, I mean,
No, it sounds cool, and I mean this is back in the 80s. Like the Japanese love uh both English and German as being like this these foreign languages that just sound cool to them.
so I guess before he was imprisoned on an asteroid or something in space.
Hmm.
Um, I believe he wasn't on the Netram side. He was on the other side, the
Yes.
a regular army or something, right?
Hmm.
Um,
Yes.
and so the planet that they are on, which the story takes place in, is not Earth. It's some colony or something, right?
Yeah, it's some planet called JR. Doesn't the story itself barely cares about that in the first one. It becomes somewhat relevant in the second.
Yeah, and I don't think it's made clear as to whether the conflict is only like on this planet or. I guess we have to assume that it's not just on this planet. I guess.
I'm gonna
Um,
go into that a little more in the other one. In the first one, it's completely irrelevant, and you're not supposed to care. So MD Geist wakes up. He's just sort of walking around. He's naked. Uh Buff blonde guy. He's got some, and he comes across a gang of marauders, and they've murdered this one guy who was in power armor. He was like from one of the two armies, and he shows up and he goes, "Oh, this is interesting. Oh, you want this? You scum wouldn't even know how to use it." At which point, the big black guy comes up and goes, "Ah, I, you want this? I respect you, but you're gonna have to serve me or die." So, guys, this big black guy rears up, brings his arms down to attack Geist, and then we have a split cut of Geist pulling out a knife, immediately cutting off his arms, and having the most high pressure blood spill out as it just sort of burst forth like a geyser from this guy's arms. It's been mocked many times.
yeah,
And then just like cut to a close up of this guy's head, and Geist slowly moves up from behind his head and then just stabs him in the back of his head. And then the guy is able to say, "Impossible," before he bleeds out and dies after he's been stabbed through the brain.
yeah. Yeah, I've seen some people make fun of it. Just like another a little bit of go, which we didn't mention. Like at the start, I think even before Geist showed up, um, we see the Netstrom fighting with the regular army. And I can't remember which side was it that had the mechs. Was it?
I'm pretty sure both did. I don't think there was any limitation on that. But guys fought along the regular army who did have mech. The other people were, I guess, maybe Nextrum used more mechs and they used more powered armor.
Yeah, whereas
Distinction,
yeah,
I guess.
yeah, whereas the regular army, I think rather than mechs, they had like mech suits. If that makes any, like if you remember, the suit which is it's more like armor. I think the one which like Geist ends up putting on, and the colonel also has on. I think. Um, I don't know. Maybe it's not that's the impression I got, but maybe it's not made clear. Whereas the ones that Netram use seem to be bulkier um, and larger, basically, with with the pilot sort of sitting in sort of like inside a small cockpit. Um, that's how I remember it anyway. Um, but maybe you're right, and maybe both sides had to do it, and there's no limitation.
I
I
mean, at that
Yeah.
you're giving more thought to it than probably the directors did. This was a show where they very much wanted to throw everything that looked cool to them, and they wanted to throw it into an anime. And I'll say this much: it looks cool. It looks like anime Mad Max. It is so, and I think this is one of the reasons the show is so well remembered. It looks so stereotypical, archetypal of like 80s to 90s anime OVA. And I mean that in the best way possible. You have these if you look up like MD Geist anywhere, you're going to see like the main armor that Geist ends up scavenging, and it's this really neat black and gold power armor that barely lets you see inside his eyes, and it looks like some death metal gladiator's armor, and it's just really cool looking. The whole aesthetic of the anime is very impressive in its own way.
Hmm. I guess. Yeah, I was briefly going to mention that. So I think that there's a little bit of go when one of the soldiers gets blown up, or rather crushed. I don't know. When a mech kind of hits him, he sort of like explodes into what is supposed to be guts, but it also looks like I don't know, like he was stuffed with wool or something.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, that's something you see a lot in this.
mm. So, so you said that that MD Geist is kind of popular, but do you get the feeling that it was more pop? It probably was more popular in the West than in Japan. Um,
Probably,
yeah,
yes. It became like the reason it was well known was because this was sort of the anime of like back when you were going in the 90s. Anime Japanimation was really making its statement by trying to be as unlike cartoons as possible. And so naturally that meant bringing in a lot of these uber violent OVAs. Basically, like almost to shock people that you could do this with animation, and trying to show how edgy and adult and all those things were. And you can look back on that today as being a little childish or whatever, but it was sort of like a reaction to things at the time, and it was trying to, like, in the most forceful way possible, show that you could tell stories that were, even if they were the equivalent of just an R-rated movie, R-rated action movie, that you could tell stories that weren't just kids show. And that was one of the reasons why these shows like MD Geist were pushed.
I see, I see. So, this was around the time that was this around the time that Akira came out. Um,
I mean, if we're talking about Western release, yeah.
I see, I see. So I guess
Anyways, we haven't even gotten to the plot of the first one, but it's pretty simple. It basically, as we've said, Geist literally takes over this gang. The squeeze of the gang immediately tries to buddy up to Geist. Geist basically just, do you have information? She goes, yeah, I'll tell you anything. And he gets all the information he wants out of her. She tries to push herself onto him because she's literally just going from the strongest man to the strongest man, like any woman in the post-apocalypse. And he just pushes her away. He doesn't give a crap about her or sex or anything like that. All he cares about is violence. So he learns enough information about Nexum and the Fetty army and where they're fighting. And his gang that he takes over wants to ally themselves with Nexum. Geist has some amount of affinity for the old Fetty forces because those are the people that he served. So he decides to fight along. So he decides to save a little convoy of theirs. They do that, and the I say the action is kind of decent there, but it can be rather strange, especially because you're not sure. Outside of Geist and the gang members, you're not sure who's on whose side, and while it's all very cool looking, it can be confusing. There's particularly this one scene where Geist is just pointing his gun at the commander, and he shoots this one mech from the back uh, as he was sort of like holding up the commander. And like it's supposed to be this scene where it was ambiguous as to whether Geist was friend or enemy towards this commander, but instead it just sort of leaves you going, "Oh, was that a enemy mech? Oh, okay."
Yeah. I think the impression I got was that as I said earlier, that the larger mechs are supposed to be the ones from Netrum, but yeah, it wasn't clear as you said. It just like I wasn't clear whether like they were just whether Geist and his gang were just going to kill everyone or something.
Yeah,
Uh,
everyone has this silver gray color scheme except for Geist's power armor, so that makes them all sort of blend together.
yeah. Um, and I guess what happens next is that the woman whose name is Paya or Vaya or something, but apparently in the Japanese dub, I guess her name is never mentioned except in the
No,
credits.
it's not. She's only ever called Ane-san.
Yeah. Um,
Which I think is like reminiscent of like sort of the whole feel of this show. Like there are very few names mentioned. Uh, you could almost view it like a haze or a fever dream. Like the what specifics there are and what names are dropped are sort of briefly glossed over and don't matter the most.
yeah. I mean, it's
Uh,
yeah. Go on.
Anyways, they talk price with the people that they saved. The squeeze wants to get them to be wants them to pay off their gang, and he basically says, "Well, we're thankful for your help, but we didn't ask for your help, and we don't want to pay scum like you." And they sort of walk off, and he the commander gives some background. He says, "Yeah, these are the most dangerous soldiers, MDS." And they just yeah, it's such a great name. And he basically says, "Hey, these are soldiers that were like the best soldiers we came up with, but turned out they were totally insane, couldn't be controlled, and so we locked them up. And now this guy is roaming free." However, the Colonel himself has a problem, so he contacts Geist anyway. He wants to make this giant raid of an area that's controlled by the Death Force. I believe it's like an Nexum controlled area, and this AI weapon called the Death Force is set to go off in something like 12 hours. And it's a set of AI mechs that, if allowed to go off, will be the ultimate weapon that will attempt to destroy all living things that they can come in contact with, especially humans. And yeah, it's the edgiest thing ever. And so naturally, Geist decides, he's going to do this. He's going to join up.
So apparently, by the way, here it says that the Brain Palace, the place that they're raiding, was actually the last I guess it was like a weapon of mass destruction of the regular army.
Yeah, I got that impression the way they were talking that it was a weapon of last resort. It's essentially like uh sort of like the doomsday weapon in Doctor Strangelove actually.
Yeah, and so the dead force apparently is called Project D, which I remember I read somewhere. Um, that's because I believe the Geist the MDS was supposed to be program. Sorry, it was program A, and but so from A to through D, they had different measures. And I guess D is like, okay, we can't win, so let's kill everyone. uh,
Hmm.
yeah. Uh, okay. So yeah, do go on.
Yeah, he. Yeah, I'll just say this much to also note that the soundtrack is very metal, very rock and roll. There's some really nice insert songs in here that are just that they use in the OVA that are just very nice. But anyways,
Yeah, the one that I do remember, of course, is I don't know when it is played. Maybe the song about him being just a soldier, uh, right?
yeah, can't stop. He's
Just
just
a
a
soldier.
soldier. Da, da.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, I guess what I mean by that is that uh, he's a soldier, but more in he's born to fight or something. Yeah.
Yes. That's Geist's whole character. And it's one of these things where they try and keep it a little they're trying to keep it coy who or what Geist's motivations are like the whole way through. At the start, he's just sort of this guy walking through Mad Max town. He takes over the gang. He immediately buddies up with these other army, and at that point you might think, oh, he's just some guy that enjoys that like wants to be a good dutiful soldier to these guys. Like he doesn't even get mad when they don't pay him or anything like that. So maybe he is just sort of like he wants to be a good soldier. But he has like this air about him where he's like making these psychopathic smiles and whatnot to himself. I should also say that at the point when they're going to raid this brain palace, the whole gang leaves because they basically go, "This is too much for us, and this guy is completely insane. We don't trust this, whatever." And they say like, "Bye, Ane-san," and they leave her. But she sticks by because she thinks she can smell uh, a strong guy who totally won't ignore her, that she can cling on to. She talks about how he can protect her and whatnot. Anyways, they raid the Brain Palace. They this their giant battleship goes in guns blazing. All these mechs swarm and pick off all the soldiers one by one until it's literally just the Colonel and Geist. The Colonel's quite upset about this, of course. And so, as they get to this room, they come across a deactivated giant robot, which is super samurai looking. It's got this big axe and all these ornaments all over it. Again, like the mecha designs are excellent in this. I've said this a lot, but if you look at modern mech designs in like your average show, which tend to be very hit and miss, like every design in here is a hit. Every design in this is not necessarily practical, but very cool looking. But the colonel reactivates this robot, and he says, like, basically, this place will be a good tomb for you. I can't trust you. You've you people always go crazy and cause trouble. And so he lets the robot loose on Geist, and he falls back to the control room where he's going to start
Yeah,
deactivating the Death Force.
and the colonel, if I'm not mistaken, he had a remote controller or a laser or something to activate the robot, right?
Yeah, it's literally just this ring on his finger, and he holds it up to the robot, and a laser goes off that hits the robot's head and then powers it up. It's weird.
And I think what follows is probably the best action scene I thought in both MD Geist and MD Geist 2. I liked it very much. The
It's kind of neat, but it's also it's very dark overall. There's some old VHS footage in there that makes it hard to see. He does sort of like punch the shit out of this big mech. And like the mech has like form after form, even after he destroys it. Like there's always one exoskeleton form underneath.
yeah, it's a mech which is wearing mech suits essentially. Um, yeah,
Yeah, and then it's like almost biologically breathing at one point. It's something.
yeah, it's like a bug man which is pulsating. And yeah, he gets him by stabbing him through. Yeah, is there a form even after that? Yeah, I think that's a form even after that. Yeah.
Yeah, it starts off as the silver robot, then it turns into a red underskeleton robot, and then it turns into like the silver complete underskeleton, and he fights that. And like this thing just won't die, and it's like hoping to out tire Geist, but Geist ends up killing it. And Geist gets knocked around, like nearly killed. He doesn't actually come across like the strongest dude ever compared to this thing.
Yeah, yeah.
There's also like the flying robot parts from it. I don't know. It's interesting. I'll say that much. But anyways, he beats the thing.
Yeah.
And just as the colonel is shutting everything down, the robot walks in and he goes, "Great, you beat him!" And then the thing just collapses in front of him, and the colonel is shocked, horrified. There's this close up of Geist and just half of his face with his glaring blue eyes.
Hmm.
And then the colonel goes, "Why?" And he starts. I thought this was a nice touch. He starts laughing uncontrollably. He's like doesn't know any other way to deal with the fact that he's about to die. So he just starts laughing at the absurdity of it all. And then he stops when Geist grabs his face and just smushes it, leaving.
I mean, I kind of feel like it doesn't make much sense that the eyes and the face would remain uncovered by the mech suit. If I remember correctly, the colonel's mech suit did not cover his face, right?
They showed it earlier that it could extend and unextend
Oh,
over
yeah,
that.
yeah, you're right, yeah, makes sense. So yeah, go on.
Anyways, he gets in there. Somehow the squeeze has followed them all this way through. Somehow, I guess
I, I,
she's Solid Snake. She's a master of stealth.
yeah. I also heard some people complaining about it. I guess that maybe all the oh, after the robot was defeated, maybe all the other remaining mechs deactivated or something, so she could just walk in or something. I don't
No,
know.
she just says that she's been following them. But anyways, the system's off. She's going, "Hey, it's great. We've turned the system off. We're the most powerful rulers. We can do anything we want now." And then Geist turns on the Death Force, and he's like, 12, 11, 10, 9. And she goes like, "What? What the hell are you doing?" And she goes, and he just grabs her and he goes, "My war isn't over yet." And it ends with her screaming, "No!" And then we cut to black, and we cut to some metal as the credits go. Oh, and also this scene of the Death Force starting up all these sort of like they're sort of phallic looking centaur-ish things with shields and lances.
Yeah, I thought that
And
they look neat. Yeah.
yeah, they do look neat. And then you see Geist with his sword ready, just sort of smiling and as his hair waves in the distance.
Hmm.
And yeah, that's MD Geist.
Did you feel like there was any ambiguity, like if the colonel had not betrayed Geist by activating the robot, do you think there was possibility that Geist would not have activated the Death Force, or do you think that that Geist came with the goal of activating the Death Force, and that's why he came there?
I feel like that's was always his goal. That's always what Geist would wanted to do in this scenario, and I think like his portrayal in the second one only backs up that view.
Mm-hmm. But and a bit earlier than that, I remember that the colonel kind of blamed Geist because all the other soldiers who came with them died on the way. I don't know. Like, do you feel like the colonel was reasonable when he basically blamed Geist for all the other soldiers dying? Like always, I think he said something like before. I I guess he was blaming. I guess the implication is that Geist is was powerful enough to protect them or to do the mission by himself if he really wanted to, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
sort of the idea that he let them die and didn't attempt to protect them, and also the idea that he's how many people has he killed up till this point? He is a walking death machine.
Yeah, yeah. I guess the question is whether the people he had killed up to this point, whether they were all or mostly Netzaram people, and whether like he was just imprisoned because he was too brutal. Like it's not like he was treacherous, but the regular army higher ups were just afraid that he might turn against them or something, because he would accomplish missions, but he would basically he would be the only one surviving, or something like that, coming back from mission. That's the impression that I got. That yeah, the,
Anyway,
yeah, but we don't really know. Yeah, I guess so. That's just my headcanon, I guess.
the second one, we can jump to the second one, and this was made literally almost a decade later, and it opens with it shows the Death Force like taking out most of human life here on the planet of Jera. They've completely taken it over, and follows like this one guy trying to escape these guys, and Geist comes in looking very different than he did last time. His character design's changed quite a bit, but he's still like got the blonde hair and everything, and shoots up shoots up the Death Force. And he walks up to this guy and he goes, "Thank you for your service to the regular army." And this guy goes, starts freaking out. What difference does that make? We're all gonna die! Why?
Yeah, yeah. I don't.
How much longer do we have to fight before it's all over?
Hmm. I remember some reviewers were complaining about how it was unnatural for that guy to like to go for that guy whom Geist quote unquote saved um, to go on this rant about the regular army, that it felt like exposition.
What? Well,
Um,
yeah, it's exposition, but yeah, it's also totally understandable, and also it's trying to set the stage, and also, uh, you don't like fun. I'm sorry.
yeah, I don't know. I wonder whether they don't like it or whether they're just pretending not to like it. Like
Like that. What did you expect? Do you think this is not in keeping with like the style of this or the first one? Because
yeah,
it is.
yeah. I was thinking of Bernard the Sage's review. I think if you have seen it of
Anyway,
MD Geist, yeah.
yeah, I've seen that. Bennett the Sage is sort of like the nostalgia critic. He like goes through each scene and he like tries to just sort of like nitpick and find something to do for the comedy skit as he goes through the show.
Yeah, yeah. I guess you have to consider it more of a comedy skit than a review. I guess. Yeah. So
Uh, Anyways, we find some people that are just sort of hanging around. Most of them live underground and scavenge up. It's not actually clear to me how these people are feeding themselves. Because it seems like these things are wiping out all life, not just humans. So I have no idea how people are feeding themselves. But regardless, they some of them talk about this rumor of like a ship in the sky of like the last people who actually fight the Death Force. And one of those guys goes, "No, that's ridiculous." And then they end up getting saved by this, and like this by them, and this white angelic mech comes down and literally saves them. And they join up, and he's this guy named Krause. Uh, by the way, we haven't mentioned VAs for the Japanese, but a lot of these are like very skilled Japanese VAs. Uh, you've got Norio Wakamoto, aka Royenthal, as Geist, and you've got I don't know the name as Krause, but he's Oberstein from Legend of Galactic Heroes.
I see. By the way, before Kraus showed up, did you expect for any moment that this the savior figure or whatever that they were talking about what was going to be Geist by this point? Or no, you didn't expect that.
Yeah, I don't think I was expecting that.
Yeah,
No.
no, I see, I see.
Uh,
Because they were talking about a very strong soldier or whatever. So I thought maybe maybe like yeah, but I guess it guys prefers to work alone. So yeah, that
oh
wouldn't
no,
make a
I'm barking up the wrong creek. This is not Oberstein's VA. He's just sounds slightly similar. He is Bakuve's VA.
I see, I see.
Anyways,
Yeah, so they get saved by Krauser, who is another MD, but his skin is blue color for some reason.
yeah, he is sort of like his under. I guess like his under part is like this blue with lines all over him, and he describes himself as like slightly more sane, slightly, and that unlike he considers himself to be not a failure, unlike all the other MDS, and that he should be like the natural leader in this post-apocalyptic area. Okay, no, I was right. This is Overstein. This is Overstein. Okay, and he he set up this whole system in the sky where basically everyone's living quite reasonably. He's got a plot MacGuffin that somehow blocks the Death Force from reading the human sources, human readings on the ship, so they're basically invulnerable, or at least invisible to these things. But he's like not totally sane like he considers. Like when his doctor like pisses him off, he just sort of grabs his head and like almost and strangles it and like almost pops it like a cherry.
Yeah, yeah.
I-
And the reason for that is because the doctor suggests that Geist might be stronger than him, than Krauser, right? That's what makes pieces of Krauser, I think.
and in the middle of him almost killing this guy, he narrates to him, "Only I am capable of using my powers, since I have normal judgment." It's like,
Yeah, yeah.
mm,
That was pretty funny. Yeah.
mhm.
Um. Yeah, and I think that somebody, I think it's the doctor who literally spells out that Krause has got like a messiah complex or a savior, like he wants to be popular, he wants to
Yeah,
have fame. Yeah,
he wants to be acclaimed. He wants to be. He was like had this all the MDS had defects of some kind, and this guy's defect happened to be pride. And so that naturally developed in this case into him wanting to create like this nice society for everyone. He comes across almost, I felt like a samurai, sort of like the way a peasant might look up to a samurai in that he's their savior, but also if you piss him off in any way, he has the right to just take your head at any moment.
I don't think he actually does anything like that. At least that we see, right?
No, no. The most is that is what he did to the doctor, which was kind of crazy. But after what the doctor does later, everyone would have been better off if he'd actually smushed that guy's head.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I guess so. Basically, Krause finds out about Krause and the doctor find out about Geist by I don't know somehow mind reading Paya, who has dementia for some reason.
Well, yeah, they talk with Via, the woman from the last one, and she's sort of like completely changed. She's become almost, I guess you could say, a semi-nun-like figure. I don't know. She's just a normal woman at this point, and she's very depressive now, and she's basic. She's had so much trauma from like the memories of like seeing the Death Force activated, and then the whole world getting exterminated, that she's just repressing all those memories, but she barely remembers Geist. And all she can tell him is that this guy is a monster of destruction and he has to be killed. He has to be killed.
Yeah, that was a nice scene. I remember. Um,
Yeah.
when she
So
gone. Yeah.
they bring in Geist eventually after like they find him in some jungle somewhere. Big fight. I think those people might have brought him in without Krause knowing. It's actually not clear to me. Uh, Regardless, the doctor. Oh no, the Krauser's like aware of this, and they bring him in. And Krauser says like the this guy is too dangerous. Just destroy it. because they have him like under inhibition. They have him completely under. But the doctor goes like, "Oh no, this guy could be like even stronger than Krauser. Imagine all the research I could do on him. Imagine all the ways I could like enhance him and help him. It would be so glorious." And so, of course, Geist wakes up, and the doctor's like, "Welcome, my creation." Ah! And Geist just kills him. And it's like, yeah, that's what you get.
But I mean, the Doctor through another being, which I think the Doctor created. I don't know if it's a human being, because the Doctor sends someone to go and apprehend Geist, right? And what was its name? Let me see. Um,
Yeah, there's some soldier that worked alongside it.
I mean, he didn't look human. That's the like. I mean, at least I think he had mechanical arms and legs.
Yeah, it looked
Uh,
like a cyborg in some capacity. That's all.
yeah. Yeah. I guess that's all that we need to know about him. But yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. They bring him back. He escapes. Yeah, and kills the Doctor. Yeah.
Yeah, he kills through a whole bunch of them. Uh, and eventually Krauser comes upon him via like screams from the top of the citadel. Kill him! Kill that man! And so uh Krauser like beats the shit out of him, uh rams his head into the floor over and over again. Geist's almost a bloody pulp, and then he throws him off the ship. But but Via's still like, no, he's still alive. He's a demon. If you don't kill him, he'll come back to us, and he'll ruin everything, everything.
Yeah. I think in the dub she says that you can't Krause, you can't kill him. Like you are not able to. But I don't think that she says so in the sub, if I remember correctly.
No, he's just going. He's a god of death, come to kill us
Yeah,
all.
yeah.
And either way, she's gone like completely hysterical. But it's understandable. Anyways, we cut to Krauser, and although Krauser is Fetty, he's making a deal with some of the next room dudes who are on this battleship, saying like, "Hey, we're going to create this scheme to blow up the Death Force, and we jointly will rule the new era and give independence to Jera." They also talk a little bit about how apparently there is like an Earth Federation out there on other worlds, and that neither of them want the Fetties to just come in and take over this planet. They want this planet to be independent under their rule.
I see. Yeah.
So they set up this nuke, and they say, "Okay, and somehow they create like this device that fools all of
The
the
Death
Death
Force.
Force
Yeah.
Morse machines into thinking that there are all these human life signs there, and so they all cluster around the nuke, and it's all supposed to be like a simple operation until Geist shows up, and Geist shows up, uh, and it's like in this like black in his black suit with wings. He actually gets like saved by by one of the mercenaries working for Krauser, and
Yeah.
he asks,
The one who captured the mercenary who captured Geist and brought him to the Doctor, right? If I'm not mistaken. Wasn't it the same? No.
"Mhm, yes, yes."
So what does he ask?
I basically just seem, yeah. He asks, "Why are you helping me? What's your goal?"
So Geist asks the
Uh,
mercenary, I guess. Yeah.
and he basically says, "I owe you one. Don't worry about it." Maybe he like got saved by Geist in the long past, or he also seems to like resent the people on top of him who just sort of use him as a soldier or whatever. It's not too clear. He also seems to just like enjoy battle a little and wants. He talks about wanting to enjoy the fireworks.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he seemed to hate the Doctor and Krauser because they used him as a tool or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah.
it's underdeveloped. You so they have this big fight. Uh, Guy shows up and starts wrecking things. He's ruining things, everything for them because the nuke's on a timer. Uh, the the Nexum guys try and betray the Krauser, but they fail, so that they'll be the only ones left behind, and this, in their view, dangerous MDS won't be able to rule things and will be blown up with them. But they get pulled in by Geist anyways, so they're gonna die too. Uh, they all start having this final battle around the nuke, and Krauser like is fighting Geist. He it starts going to like an almost black and white, and Geist and Krauser just start punching the shit out of each other, both in terrible shape. And all the people are going, "Save us, Lord Krauser!" And eventually, Geist uses a human shield. This rod goes like straight through both Geist and the little kid, and this causes Krauser to go completely nuts. That he, I couldn't have killed like an innocent. And then Geist says something about "you're not qualified to be a hero." Krauser freaks out with this scream, and then the nuke goes off, and then it kills everyone. Guitar plays as it kills everyone, and then like a scene afterwards shows Vaya and a handful of other people who I guess drove out away, and presumably, if they're right and all the Death Force were brought in here, then that's it. They are like the lone survivors of this world, along with whoever else didn't join the ship.
But didn't the nuke go off before um, Krauser and Geist got back to the base, to their fortress or whatever, to Krauser's fortress? Um, I remember seeing, because I think that the explosion at the end and the nuke were two separate explosions. I think the explosion at the end was the fortress exploding,
Was
um, wasn't it?
was it?
Let me send you.
I'm looking. Oh yeah, I think you're right. Actually, yeah, you're right. That's weird. That's really weird. Oh no, he says it's burning. My castle is burning. No, and then he.
So here,
Okay, so like his fortress survives, but I. But okay, like his fortress survives the nuke, but like was too mortally wounded and then ends up exploding later. I think that's what it
yeah,
is.
yeah, because the reason why it explodes is because not all the dead foes are destroyed by the nuke. The remaining dead foes and Geist come back towards the fortress. So
Okay.
it's the I think it's the damage done by the dead force and Geist to the fortress which causes for it to explode. Um,
Okay.
and
Regardless, this all blows up. You see the remaining survivors credits roll, and then in the middle of the credits, you see a shot of Geist's helmet littered uh, among among a bunch of skulls,
We don't really
seeming
know
to
if he
say that.
died, though, do we?
Yeah, well, it seems to imply that he's dead.
Yeah, I see.
I mean, a giant explosion engulfed both of them, and there's nothing left but rubble of the big airship,
We,
and
yeah,
that's the movie.
yeah. We didn't. By the way, we didn't really see Krauser getting impaled by. So he must have gotten impaled during the explosion because earlier on it was Krauser who had I guess impaled um,
Right, it's not
Geist.
Krauser himself that gets impaled. He impales Geist, as well as this other kid. And the fact that he killed someone who was a civilian causes Krauser to just go completely nuts and feel like he's not worthy and qualified, etc.
Yeah, yeah. So that's So that's that's just MD Geist too, I guess. I don't know. It didn't feel rushed now that you went through it with me here. But when I watched it, it did feel a bit rushed.
You
Uh,
could say that, but I feel like it's actually perfectly paced for what it is. Uh, the show never gives you more information than it is necessary. It actually has, I'd say, half decent world building. You like some stuff like about like an Earth Federation outside of Jera like didn't need to be commented upon, but it is, and it's like a 10-second line or something like that. It's just dropped in, so it gives you like a sense of the world, but not enough for you to focus it on too much because at the end of the day, the focus is the action, the focus is the edge. Uh, a lot of people have described these two as being kind of nihilistic, and you could say that in terms of like both end with just everybody dying, pretty much. Only a tiny amount of people survive.
MD Geist 2 came out 10 years after MD Geist. I don't like so the I guess the appeal of the first one was supposed to be like the plot twist that Geist is evil, he's not a good guy.
Mhm.
Um, was there really that much to go? Do you think that MD Geist 2 added that much to the first one, or was it really
Well,
necessary?
it's obvious. I mean, the MD Geist one is totally sufficient. The second one basically sets up more things with regards to the world that they're living in. It has a lot better world building than the first one, whereas the first one is like very generic Mad Max. This gives you an actually pretty good feel for the way people live and whatnot, I'd say, and how people are trying to function in what's left of this society.
I see. I see. Yeah. Yeah. I don't like. I'm going through another. So this old blog or whatever complaining about stuff like that there's stuff that doesn't make sense, such as how the Dead Force follows Geist instead of attacking him at the end.
Yeah,
But I don't
I
know.
agree.
I kind of felt like at the end the reason why the Dead Force wasn't attacking Geist was because they had bigger fish to fry. I don't know. Like how did they find out where the humans were at the end? The remaining.
Maybe
Yeah.
they sabotaged the transponder. I don't know.
Yeah, it's not explained. Okay. Uh, yeah, and I don't know. Like they're complaining about Geist's motivations, but I think they're pretty clear by the end.
Yeah, he enjoys battle. What more needs to be said? Like it's very clear. It's very obvious.
Hmm.
Like
Okay.
You remember that scene from The Dark Knight where Alfred talked about how some men can't be motivated by money, some men just want to watch the world burn? That's Geist.
Yeah, yeah. Um. Okay. So, okay, I don't know. Would you say which of the two do you think is better, MD Guys one or two?
They're different. I I'd probably give the edge to two, maybe. Just because there's the animation's overall better in the second one. It feels slightly more coherent. You don't have the absolutely useless and starting narration at the front of it. So yeah, that's why overall I'd give the edge. And to that, and you also have more other characters like Krauser that are set up from the start. That sort of interesting contrast. I can actually see this Krauser as being like a legitimate character in like some other anime.
Yeah, yeah. I think that I think that the fact that there was that basically Krauser's addition in the second part made it more interesting. But at this, I kind of feel like um, there's less time skips in the first one. It felt more like a continuous story from beginning to end. Um, Whereas with MD Guys 2, I kind of felt like it could have been expanded a lot more. Like there was a lot of stuff there. But I guess the reason why I asked the difference between the two is that since it came 10 years afterwards, whether the creators had learned anything
Hmm.
new in between, I guess, or whether it was just more of the same for better and for worse.
Hmm.
Yeah. Okay, let's have a look. Okay. So I've only seen the sub version. Have you seen the dub?
I saw little bits of the dub. The dub is actually not awful for the time. There's some decent performances put in there. There's also a lot of normie over the top performances. Uh, I'd say if you want to enjoy the cornball factor more, I'd go with the dub. But if you want to enjoy what's going to be like a slightly more serious and slightly more uh, accurate rendition, I'd go with the sub. Like it also has some of the things that they did with dubs early on, where if something didn't make sense to the people making it, they try to add lines which actually were incorrect and caused issues. Like at the end of MD Geist 1, where the Colonel accuses the Geist of like killing all his letting all the subordinates die, or I think some of his past subordinates die as well. Geist walks up and he says like, "No, you killed them," which seems sort of odd. But in the Japanese, he just stoically walks forward and doesn't say anything like that.
Okay, that's weird. I don't know because I kind of remember that accusation in the subs, or maybe I must I don't know, or maybe I must have seen some other clip somewhere. Maybe
Yeah.
it wasn't there in the sub, but I just imagined it because both of us watched the same version, right?
Yeah.
The director's cut. So speaking of the director's cut, I've only seen the director's cut. Do you know anything about the original MD guys?
It's 5 minutes shorter.
Hmm.
There's more in between animation. I I actually don't think there's a tremendous difference between the two, and you could watch either. I don't think it's a big deal either way. I do believe that like the some of the epilogue scenes for like are from are original to Yeah, okay, yeah. The epilogue scene in like the first one is original to the director's cut. Like it originally just ends with Geist grabbing Vaya and going, "My war isn't over yet. Oh, the game is not over yet. It's just beginning." And that's it.
I see, I see. So another a little bit of more trivia. Fumi Hirano as Paya or Vaya. Apparently her name I read somewhere is supposed to be Paya with a P, but in
Oh,
I believe in the dub the Central Park Media or whatever those guys got it wrong and it became Vaya.
well, I mean, katakana is one of those things you
Yeah.
can
So
interpret it multiple ways.
yeah, so Fumi Hirano anyway as Paya. So Fumi Hirano is the voice actress, obviously. Um,
I'm. Did they change VAs from version to version? Hold on. No, her VA is Matsumoto Rika,
I don't know.
from what
I
I'm
see.
getting.
I see. So maybe this thing is wrong. This is what you get.
That's what Mal is telling me.
Okay. Okay. I see. So it's probably right. You're probably right. Because here it says that it was Fumi Hirano and that she played Lam from Urusei Yatsura.
Oh my gosh, this is the voice of Ash Ketchup in Japanese.
Okay. I mean, I'm not surprised. It is especially in the first one. She does have sort of a boyish kind of tomboyish voice, so you could do
I
that. Yeah.
guess. I guess.
Okay. Anything else to go through?
I
Um.
mean, the thing I'll say is like people like to make fun of this, but at the same time, technically, there's a whole lot done right with it. Like the Japanese VAs all turn out pretty good performances. Like not Oscar tier worthy or anything like that, but like very solid performances. They clearly didn't treat this like it was complete schlock. Um, the animation, while limited, has like incredibly cool designs. Everything is like very well detailed. And yeah, I mean, why do you watch this show? You watch it because you enjoy really neat designs and action and fighting and all that whatnot. And if that's what you're coming for, if you treat it like almost like you're watching a schlocky '80s action movie, I think you'll enjoy this. Like it's like a schlocky '80s action movie, but with like the anime aesthetic of like being super heavy metal and whatnot. I can totally see like I don't know some band or something styling themselves after this.
I see. I see. Yeah. So I think I don't know. Like most new people haven't even heard of this, but most of the reviews which I saw was just complaining about it.
Yeah, it used to be infamous because people would uh hold it up as the most infamous example of like worst anime. But like even Bennett the Sage in his review said like, yeah, that's a little undeserved. This is far from like the worst thing ever. If anything, it has like a couple strong suits, and it's also like very much knows what it is. It's not attempting to be some great work of art or anything like that. It's attempting to be action schlock, and it does that very effectively.
So I guess yeah. I mean, so when we're discussing about what anime we were going to talk about this week, we also talked about Genocyber and Mass of Destruction. Would you consider those to be good recommendations for somebody who likes MD Geist?
I've not seen Genocyber, but probably because it's the same. It's the same director, and my understanding is it's pretty similar in like tone and whatnot. Mars of Destruction, no. I watched that before this, and apparent. Mars of Destruction, that's one of those shows which it's not. It's sort of like it's not competent enough to make you angry at it. Like it has like an outline for like a mecha anime of. It has like a decent plot outline, which it just sort of like throws in there, and then it has like the most amount of still animation ever, and it's just an odd show, but it's like almost not worth remembering and not worth critiquing, I'd say. Unlike Geist, where like I can totally see why someone would enjoy this. It's not even so bad it's good. It's just good for what it is. It's like I'd give it like roughly a 6 out of 10 or something like that. Uh, but as far as like something like Mars of Destruction goes, it's like like if you know, I've never played it, and this is a little too strong, but it's a little like reviewing the game Bubsy 3D. But even that's not true because in some ways it's more competent than a game like Bubsy 3D. But it's sort of like that in that it's completely not competent at what it's doing, and it doesn't even feel like an anime, Mars of Destruction. But
It feels more like a slideshow from what I've heard of about it anyway.
yeah, almost. And it's sort of like you just drop in talking heads about like Expo. Oh, and here we're setting up that the main character hates his father, that his father pushed him into this, but then like the main character doesn't do anything, and he just sort of like randomly fights, but we don't get to see him fight. It barely qualifies as like an anime or anything. It's not even, and I don't think it should be qualified as like worst anime ever. I mean, I guess you could say on a technical level, but eh. Like at that point, I'd be much more upset by some schlocky show that comes out than something like Mars of Destruction.
Yeah, the reason why Master of Destruction came to my mind was that, well, one of the reviewers described the second part as kind of like a clip show, like somebody had taken clips from different episodes and
Mm.
stuck them together into a compilation movie of some sort.
Hmm.
Um, I guess some people are bothered a bit by the time skips in the second one.
Hmm.
But I don't know. I wasn't bothered that much by it. Yeah, as you said, the music is good. Um, I guess when I watched it, I felt like I would have given it a score of 4 out of 10. I don't know, because maybe because I expected it to be much worse, or you know, like I expected it to be so bad that it's good in some way, like we go all over the place, that sort of thing, over the top thing, which, because I think you also said that at the start that this show is kind of representative of the stuff which came out at the time, and to me, when I watched it, it just seemed okay. Yeah, so it's just something average which came out at that time, and then got popular because, for, not because of what it is, but for circumstantial reasons. Around the production. I don't know if CPM, the guys at CPM, ever explained why they liked it so much. Yeah,
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 yeah. Apparently, it was John O'Donnell really liked it. I'm not sure why.
Yeah, that would be an interesting thing to know, given that it's because of him probably that people know about it. Um,
Yeah, yeah. This guy put it well. The inconvenient truth here is that MD Geist is incredibly watchable. Is like every Jean-Claude Van Damme or Steven Seagal film ever made.
yeah, yeah. Uh, okay. I wouldn't. So that is. I'm looking at this blog post from a website called Forgotten Junk.
Hmm.
I'll share the blog post.
Yeah, yeah, I got into that. I got to this other web archive of like a defense of MD Geist.
Yeah, yeah, and so I guess I'm looking at the header of the blog. Let me post it again. And so obviously this blog is um, not just about MD Geist, but they have the mech over there along with some action movie hero type of characters. If you see, I don't know. I mean, I guess you could say that MD Geist is slowly becoming forgotten junk because I don't think most.
At this point, yeah, it was sort of like it was once upon a time like the standard held up as like the worst anime ever in like sort of old western otaku culture, but that culture has really died away.
Yeah, yeah. I think. I mean, you say otaku culture. I guess. Yeah, I guess
Like
that.
western otaku culture, I'd
I see.
say.
I see. I see. Because
Mm,
when it comes to otaku culture, they've got their own stuff. I guess. Whereas this feels a lot Western, I would say.
yes, it's very western in style overall. Like there is nothing in the slightest. Well, it would be too strong to say that there's nothing in the slightest Japanese about it, but it's very Western inspired. It's very Western feeling, and it's easy to see why this got a lot more attention in America than it did in Japan. I don't think it ever got any attention in Japan.
Yeah, and I would say that the most Japanese thing is probably the mech suits or whatever you want to call that. Like the one which Geist defeats the
Mech
robot.
suits,
Yeah, yeah.
the power armors, etc. But even then, at that case, you basically coming back to the fact that there's all this as if this stuff hasn't been like communicated back and forth, and as if people haven't taken that on like as something they enjoy. Western artists.
Yeah, yeah. Mhm. So the production, I believe, was funded by this American company CPM, but
Yes.
even though it was funded by Americans, I don't think that many Americans were involved in the production of MD Guys too.
No, I
No.
don't. I don't believe so. I think they just gave him money, said, do it more." It's like, okay. This isn't like the Big O where they had like requests made when the Western Company came in. Which, by the way, that's how the Big O season 2 got made. Cartoon Network literally requested it.
I see, I see. Yeah, I remember. I haven't seen Big O, but I've heard that there's some weird stuff which happens in season two and people don't like it. So maybe that's why.
Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah, specifically, the creators of the Big O had no intention of revealing how their world worked. It was just supposed to be a nice setting, and then one of the requirements Cartoon Network gave them was that they wanted them to answer the question of what the setting was like, and they went, "Oh, well, okay," and so they ended up doing something really trippy that not everyone liked, but it made sense.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'm looking at that archived post you dropped. It's called colonydrop.com, by the way. Yeah, nice, nice.
Mhm.
Does it say anything which we haven't talked about already?
Not
Uh,
really. It just said like, hey, this. In many ways, this is sort of like a great show to watch with friends or something like that. It's campy in its own way, and honestly, there's nothing for what it's trying to be. As we've said, there's nothing really wrong with it. And if you go in knowing what this is, and I mean, if you watch it, of course you know what it is. Uh, I think you'll enjoy it, and I don't think there's much to complain about.
yeah, I also looked to see if I could track down the soundtrack somewhere, but unfortunately, unless it's up on YouTube, I didn't check there.
Yeah,
Uh,
the insert songs are up on YouTube. I don't know about the broader soundtrack.
Then again, I think when it comes to the soundtrack, probably the highlights are the insert songs, unless you can think of anything else.
Hmm.
Right. Yeah. So in this blog post, so this came out in 2011, and in the other one, which I showed earlier as well, they were talking about moe, like this is for people who don't like moe or something, essentially.
Yes, yes. It was written in 2011, back when this was like the height of people trying, like the last hangers on and clingers on that were trying to reject Moe entirely and say, screw this modern anime shit. We don't like it. We want to go back to manime. And that type of stuff. That was like a big deal then.
I see. I see. Yeah. I mean, the thing is that now at this point, I don't think that moe itself is such a big thing as well. So yeah. So basically, the whole
Well,
discussion. Yeah.
it's sort of like it's so thoroughly conquered that we're living in the ashes of its world. So it doesn't even make sense to be anti-Moe anymore. It's just something that you have to accept that you've lost.
I see. I see. Uh, yeah. I'm just looking on AnyDB to see if you know who. No, there are no reviews for MD Geist on AnyDB. No. So,
Hmm.
so that person hasn't checked.
That's surprising because this is a pretty well-known show, at least as far as this stuff he
Yeah.
goes off of.
Yeah. 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 Okay. So I'll give it a score of 5 out of 10. To be fair, because I didn't find it offensive in any way. So and yeah, the score which they give on NDB is for 5.04, which is fair.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean that's balancing it out between you see a lot of people go between like 1 out of 10 and 10 out of 10, which
mhm.
I don't think either are fair, but I'm a little bit more sympathetic to the 10 out of 10 people who are basically just counter signaling and going like, "No, you have to understand. This is like the height of coolness."
Let me check. I think because NDB is better, it has actually got vote statistics which show. So I posted the link to the NDB page if you want to have a look as well. It might have the vote statistics to see how much people voted. Yeah. So let's see. 100. So the 100 people voted it 6 out of 10, and 91 5 out of 10. 89 4 out of 10, and the rest. Yeah, the others. How many people voted it 10 out of 10? 13, and 33 people uh, voted it 1 out of 10. I wonder whether we can look at the ratings. Oh, there's the ratings over time as well. Interesting. Let's see. So back in 2006, so there are two lines. What's number of votes? So that's the number of votes is in gray. and the rating is in green. So back in 2006, the rating was 4.6, and then between 2006 and 2008, it went down to 1.6. That's that's a that's a big drop. Yeah, and then it has been slowly rising back up, I guess.
Interesting.
Back to 2.21. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, this is much. This came back in the 80s, and I don't think any DB was there back in the 80s, so we can't really know how. Yeah, how it people's opinion actually changed over time, I guess, probably. But I guess the point is that it's I guess the people who are checking it out, like their minds aren't poisoned by people complaining about it that much. They just come across it or something like I did
Yeah, it's
when you
like,
mentioned it.
oh, this is fun, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah. One day if I come across, maybe if I come across the manga, I might have a look at it. Because I think the world building is neat, as you said, but
Mm.
like it's a lot of it like it's
Background.
yeah, background. And yeah, I think people probably some people may also like think that it was rushed because they wanted to know more about the background.
Mm.
Yeah, but then again, the same people will complain about like exposition scenes and
Hmm.
whatnot. Yeah. Oh, that's a bit about the demographics as well. So, um, for some,
Yeah, I'm sure it's overwhelmingly men watching this.
yeah, it's overwhelmingly well, yeah, it's overwhelmingly men, but the few women who did watch it seem to have given it like a higher score. Uh,
Interesting.
yeah, I wonder why that is. Yeah, but still overall, I think the male score is higher. It's like yeah, the male score is 2.22, and that's from 218 people, and the female score is 1.87 from 16, just 16 people. So the reason why in some age groups I think this is less than 18, it's 8.79. The reason why it's so high there is because like it's only one person score, so it's
Hmm.
one only one woman in that age range gave it a score, so that's why you have the spikes over there. Okay, okay. I don't think there's much else to say. Is there?
No. Yeah. Yeah. It's a nice show. If you know what you're coming in for, you're gonna enjoy it. If you don't want to watch dumb action schlock, hey, don't watch it. It's not gonna convince you.
Right. Thank you for listening, and go give MD Geist a look so that it doesn't become forgotten, I guess.